quick. I just asked Steve to see.
We're good.
We're good?
We're good. I'm going to ask for Tom to call the roll of the committee members, please.
Before I call the roll, if everybody would please make sure that they sign in at the door, so we know who you are. And online, again with Steve, if they identify yourself, so we've got who attended the meeting.
Well, we're over 100. In fact, I expanded the license this morning, anticipating that 100 might not do it. So we can do 1,000 tonight, but we're going to have a hard time tracking those down.
Gotcha. Okay. So, roll. Kevin? Here. Eisenbrown?
Yeah.
Larry?
Yep.
Richardson? Here. Snodgrass?
Here.
Steel Smith?
Yeah.
We're all here.
All righty. The minutes of Tuesday, February 6th, 2024 meeting. I looked at them. I was not here, so I will have to abstain from that.
I didn't see the issue.
So do anybody have any? I'm good with the minute. I'll make a motion to accept. Motion to approve the minutes of February 6th. I have a second. Any other discussion? Being none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're going to go ahead and move into some of our other topics for this evening. Steve and Molly, if you would, we've tried to put together a summary of some of the comments and questions. If you would, if you two would kindly go over that with us, please.
Yeah.
Sure.
You want to go first?
Well, what you have in front of you are two different documents. One's the questions and comments from the 29th, and the other one is the 6th meeting. This is compendium is from me sitting down and watching the tape and writing down that collection in sort of sequential order. So there's some repeats, but that's okay. I didn't go back and frankly clean it up. You know, I would say, just like we talked at the meetings a little bit, there's some key fundamentals here that are just here, you know, as we know, and they're on our plate too, with regard to, let's just knock them out. There's, you know, the zoning representation and ordinance activity. But there's, you know, there are others as well. I mean, well, there's a lot of others, but we know those are the three biggest ones. At least we've talked about that. A lot of feedback on the timeline of the project, and both. Gee, do you think you can get it done in that time, and or why does it have to be that time? What's your flexibility? There were comments about maybe we should try to find ways to bring others into the process, and I think that was a very good comment. Number of comments about the need, just in general, for more education and communication to start. Well, to make sure that the best information is out there on a timely basis. And in fact, we propose to talk a little bit more about that tonight with the comms committee discussion. And probably, and to me, one of the other biggest ones that popped up in each case was clarifying the utilities discussion. So again, besides the, you know, the sort of the, I keep calling the foundational big three, you know, there's other stuff in there, and I know you guys have had a chance to peruse that a little bit. Molly, what's your sense?
I mean, I think you did a really good job summarizing. Thank you for going back and watching those and pulling together all the questions and comments from those videos. Yeah, there definitely were some common themes, a lot of questions that we know we need to answer. I think you hit on some big ones, but you didn't mention tax. Tax is another thing.
Yeah, excuse me.
Tax
Yeah.
applications. So that's another high hitter.
Both tax types.
Yeah. Another high hitter on the list that we need to get significant more clarity on ourselves, as well as, well, you know, making sure we're communicating to the residents on what those implications would be. Beyond that, obviously the communication needs amped up even more. I know we've done a lot in the past.
There's a problem with somebody not here.
We can hear.
Oh, you guys in here can't.
Yeah.
Oh, It's not gonna come over the speakers.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'll try to
The
talk
P-
louder
the
then.
PA doesn't.
The PA is not working right, and if it does, we get feedback, so.
He just said to me, can I say something?
Yeah, not everybody in this room speaks as
Right,
loud as I do.
I'll talk louder. I don't always talk louder, but I will do my best. All right, now where was my train of thought? Okay, so amping up communication, and I know there was obviously a lot of concern with feeling like this came out of nowhere. And that's, not entirely invalid because it did kind of like we didn't mention merger in a lot, our meetings leading up to this. To be honest, I mean, obviously, we all know as a committee that even we didn't really consider this as an option until more recently. I think we did not necessarily even know that it was an option because we didn't know we didn't need to be contiguous. So that was, I think, kind of the first point at which we obviously started talking about this was when we found out that we didn't need to be contiguous to consider something like this. As far as what we do going forward, I actually had there was a resident, a woman that approached me after I think the first community meeting. And she was interested in assisting the communications subcommittee in our communications efforts. She, I guess, specializes in communication as her profession. So I met with her and she had some really good ideas and thoughts on how to, make sure that we're getting out to the residents, like communicating it education wise and also like engagement sessions and things like that. How do we, not only just send information out, but receive information back. So I'm really glad that she kind of seemed interested in wanting to help with that, because I am not a communications professional. I'm doing my best here. And, if we get more volunteers who want to help in that respect, we can hopefully get to a better place where the residents do feel like we're providing enough information and providing enough avenues to receive information back. So I don't know if we want to talk through any of that strategy tonight or leave that to our next meeting or what. But we've tossed around ideas of increasing our email communications even more than we already have to be on right now I've kind of been setting them on an as needed basis when there's, little updates or meeting notices, but making a more regular cadence where they're sent specifically weekly, even if there's maybe not a lot to update that week. And making sure we get printed newsletters sent on a more or some kind of printed mailed media sent, because even though we're trying to build out an email list, we don't have even 50% of the households on our email list. So, we've been building that over the past year, and I want to continue to build that because that's the most immediate form of communication. But we need to make sure we're not analog communicating with the residents who, are not checking email all the time, aren't on websites and social media. So having some kind of regular cadence for a printed communication as well, to go out to the community. That might be something that I think in order to send printed stuff, we have to have budget to do that. So we might need to request funding from the trustees in order to make that happen. So I don't know, that maybe that could be something we bring up at the trustee meeting.
Right, okay. I think that on communication, this was, 2 years ago, we didn't have, the township didn't have an email list. We've created one. We have over 550 now, names on that list. We are also trying to educate people that, in this day and age, you need to be part of the pull as well as the push mechanism on information flow. So, the things that we have are all out on the website. The website here, Kendra and her team completely re-engineered that a year ago, and it really is very effective. And so the stuff is there. And in parallel with that, Molly works hard to get it onto the community Facebook site. I mean, that's our commitment, is to keep that current and the Facebook site current. And then I've had the luck of being the next door communicator. And again, we will what I have done with Nextdoor primarily is just put announcements out there. So trying to pick up others, and I have mine guided to just Harlem Township neighborhood. So there are 8 neighborhoods on Nextdoor comprising Harlem Township geography. And we'll continue to do that. And so we need to get people to realize, get us your emails if you can. You can go look for information as well as our commitment to continue to push out to the consumer.
All right, thank you.
Other comments on the, what you see here? I need to,
Do you have any
I gotta
thoughts
grab
on?
we'll take that later. Thank you.
Well, that's
We'll
what,
have a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that.
Well, with this later. Thank you.
Thank you.
The communication has always been an issue. As you said, not everybody has the internet. We've put mailers and flyers out in the past, and I still have people telling me they don't see them. So I don't know if the postal service has them stacked somewhere or what. So, we try, we don't have a daily newspaper that comes to everybody's house. I mean, those days are gone. So this is a process that I know you guys are working hard on, and I would hope the community can try to help us form some other ways of communication. So I commend the job that you guys are trying to do, and it's putting this together is interesting. I mean, I setting up there, I heard the questions, but I'm reading over them again. I'm hearing them again. So.
And you can go back and watch the tape if you'd like. No.
I don't know if my heart can do that, to be honest with you.
Just,
I'm sorry.
I had somebody ask me about getting access to those video recordings from the 2 public meetings.
Yes.
those are online already.
To explain how.
Yes, please.
Yes, so they are linked on the Strategic Planning Committee page. They're on the Harlem Township YouTube channel. So if you just go to YouTube and type Harlem Township, it's like one of the, first thing that pops up is the Harlem Township channel. It's like at Harlem Township OH, I believe. So all of the videos that are uploaded from anything Harlem Township related are on that channel. Including, trustee meetings, as long as the technology, from whenever we started doing this, which I don't know, probably was started around the pandemic or so.
And just so everybody that's out there and in here, if you're having issues finding things, I know for a fact that if you communicate, there again, I hate to say it, via email, because right now that's really the only thing we really have with these guys, they'll help you, they'll guide you to getting to those links.
And of
We'll make
course,
sure that those links are there for you to find. So we need to ask. We just need to ask. Anything else from the group for the communications?
had a thought, but then it escaped me.
Good.
Well, if it comes back, let us know.
Okay.
Jim, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, Real Estate and Developer Committee. There is a ton of information. And a lot of people don't realize, and we try to communicate that we have done things, but you have to protect the rights of the individual landowners as far as if you try to say something's happening, but you don't want to throw them under the bus. They have trusted us to contact us and discuss their options or what's going on. So what I did, we've been working on a lot of things. So I'm just going to do a quick synopsis on some things that are relevant right now and that we've been working on, and go from there. One thing has been people think that we haven't reached out or looked at other communities on this endeavor. In fact, we have. Because they're not public, or you call somebody and they don't acknowledge it, doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'm not going to get into politics from those other entities. We know what happened. We have records of the meeting as far as making notes, dates, that type of thing. I'll start with Galena. Jill Love was the previous mayor of Galena. She was contacted by Holly. We asked what kind of avenues we could work on, such as non-annexation agreements and that type of thing. That was done in 2023. I wasn't able to talk to Holly to get the exact date. She has given that date before in public. Furthermore, in 2024, you're saying, well, why don't you go further? Actually, we did a meet and greet with the new mayor, Jeff, in Galena, and talked about some of their aspirations and what he wants to do with them. We talked about our vision. Just on the surface, nothing in detail, but both sides came away with basically nothing there. They're a small town of 1,000 people, we're 4,800. Merger is totally out of the sequence because basically Harlem would, if they agreed to it, Harlem would just take over Galena by vote. First general election, boom, Galena becomes Harlem. So they're not going to do that. They have some other economic issues. At this time, I don't know what those are. Most of them are just economic, nothing to protect our borders, nothing to help us. Next option people have asked about is Sunbury. I have not talked to Sunbury. However, Sunbury posts their planning meetings just like in our zoning meetings just like we do. You can get online and watch them. Also, you can get online and watch their city council meetings. So I would direct you to look at their city council meeting from May 6th. It's online. Huh? I'm sorry, March. I don't know why I wrote May. Sorry. Thanks, Tom. March 6th of this year, item number 7. Item number 7 is a 298-acre annexation off of Miller Paul Road in Trenton Township. I have a map up here that shows exactly that there's one property right across the street from Sunbury, annexing into Harlem Township. Don't have to believe me, go online, look at it. The next item was, and also I watch all the communities meetings. I watch what's going on. Well, any citizen can do that. You can get online and watch their planning, watch their zoning, watch their city council meetings. You get on, watch the planning and zoning meeting in Sunbury of October 26th of last year. That meeting was to approve a 78-acre annexation. Again, Sunbury's annexing. And the developers were there showing their plan for on 78 acres. They wanted to put 400 apartments and 200 houses on 78 acres. I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. It's online. Go look at it. Now, when I come back to the committee or we talk, with Mike and zoning, and we're trying to figure out what the heck is going on, obviously that's not following our vision. They have a different vision. They're going out west. They're going out east. They're reportedly almost up to 1,200 acres of annexation of Trenton Township. Again, when people say, why don't you talk to Sunbury? I personally, and the committee doesn't see any reason to talk to Sunbury. Get online and look at it. New Albany. New Albany has annexed up to Fancher and South County Line Road. They're right across the street. There again, you don't have to believe me. Get on a New Albany map, look at it. All you have to do is see that you can stand on the street and hit them with a pebble like this. New Albany is right there. There again, there has been some discussions. They are basically working on industrial and commercial entities. I don't see where they're able to help at this point. If they want to reach out with an idea, because we haven't heard any, we're willing to listen. Next, Columbus. If you go down to Columbus, if you follow Harlem down to Walnut Street, which is the next road south of Smothers. If you go down there, drive down there, it took them about a year to get the sewer into those farm fields. There are 5 apartment complexes being built at this time. There's huge subdivisions being built in there. And I estimate within a year to a year and a half, those fields will be done. I've talked to the builders down there. They're not stopping. They're coming forward. When they get to the north side of Walnut Street, that area is done. They're out of room. You've got Park and the electrical station right there. So they have no more open area there. Where Columbus is going to go from there, I don't know. There's 10 million different stories out there. But when you look at what's going on, I'm just reporting what I see. We continue to talk with developers who come to Harlem Township to talk to us. We are constantly looking for other options. We haven't closed the door on other options. In the last couple of weeks, we've had some meetings with a couple of developers. And I must say, a couple of them have brought us some really nice ideas. They're compatible to our vision and to our zoning and planning. And we feel that we can work with them. We are also hoping that they come forward for more meetings and more details on their vision. Utilities are still a big concern. I'm not going to get into a debate on utilities tonight. We have a utilities committee who is working diligently, trying to figure this out. I know some citizens have called and been told one thing versus what we've been told. Then other people call, and so it could end up, you could have 7 different answers on one day. I don't know who's talking to who. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. But just because you call somebody one time, find out who you talk to, find out what they represent, and find out, well, I heard this. We have dates, we have times, and we have meetings. Like I said, I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to throw somebody under the bus in the utility companies, but we are talking to them. We do have dates, we do have times. In other words, I have no reason to lie to you about utilities, or there's the utility committee. That pretty much wraps it up, what my report tonight. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee to Jim? Any comments?
Oh, I remembered what I was gonna say before, before Jim's update. Just that with all the questions and comments we received in the first 2 meetings, a lot of them we can't answer, but some of them we can. So we need to figure out what avenue we want to and how we want to put together responses to the ones that we do know the answers for, and make sure we get them out on, I don't know if we're going to be utilizing that combined Westerville Harlem website or whether we just want to put it on our own township website. But we need to, of what was brought up that we do know answers to, we need to make sure that we get that, kind of squared away. So.
Well, my suggestion is I think we need to answer those on our website. We have discussed in the past about generating mailers, about generating flyers. I think that we might put together a brief, and we're not going to be able to list every question. And I hope everybody understands that not every question is going to be able to be listed out. But I think if we put the main ones and we'll work together, and I'll have to talk with the other 2, but I don't think there'll be an issue with generating a budget to do some sort of mailers as we progress with whatever we happen to do.
Okay. But then how do we want to just offline within the subcommittees, figure out what questions we can answer
Have to.
Yeah.
and then put them on our website?
That's the biggest problem with this. This whole thing is bigger than any one of us. But if we can't narrow it down and work as committees, and again, volunteers, please. You see it. And there's a few people outside of that help with some of these committees, but you see it. This is what we've been trying to do with this group. And all of they're volunteers. I've been asked several times, how much do they get paid? They're volunteers. The only 2 people up here get paid, he's our zoning inspector and myself. And I don't, whatever. But these are volunteers. I want to keep reiterating. We need more help. I would love for the passion that I've seen out there with negativity. I would like to see that turn around and come and help. Come and help. This is our community. We have to find a fix. That's my report. Bruce? anything?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things to update on, some recent meetings and some meetings we're going to be attending soon. Last week, the trustees and several of us on the committee met with ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation, and the Delaware County Engineers Office to get updates on what's going on with roads. So 2 reps from ODOT and 2 from the Delaware County Engineers Office. The biggest takeaway was that the 605 Fancher Road roundabout project, they're targeting it to start mid-April. And they will be also replacing culverts there at the same time. ODOT said they've actually provided financial incentives to the selected contractor to keep the road closure to 40 days. So they're paying extra to try and get that road closure of 605 and Fancher only to 40 days. Still going to be a long 40 days. They said that the detour signage they were putting up would direct motorists to the next like road, which would be 37. Lots of concern was expressed that even though you can put up those signs, the traffic that goes up and down 605 are probably not likely to pay attention to those. So big concerns for local traffic roads, things like Hatch Road, Keene Road, things like that with the bypass. So we did talk about some ideas that might help with that. I think the trustees did a really nice job of laying that out with ODOT, so they took notes. I think, it'll be interesting to see if they listened to anything that we suggested. They also said there are no current plans to widen 605. And that we asked about the fact that they chip and sealed so much of 605. They said there's not any plan to restore asphalt. They're targeting that for like 2027. They also said they're targeting a roundabout for 605 and Walnut, so going a little bit farther south on 605 for the July 2025 timeframe, which is a little bit longer than a year away. They also said when they do that, their intent is to try and use the roundabout to straighten getting from Walnut with the jog that's on 605. The county line and 37 improvements are targeted to be completed in 2026. The Delaware County Engineers Office did indicate that, they're aware Center Village and Fancher roads may need to be improved in the future. When we talked to them about traffic studies, it certainly, my interpretation was they've got an idea it's going to be a problem as development occurs, but they weren't necessarily jumping out in front trying to get ahead of it. The next topic is planning, and a couple of us will be attending actually tomorrow the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Committee State of the Region seminar, basically where they will lay out at the whole big Mid-Ohio area the plans for the coming years. So hopefully we'll have some takeaways from that meeting that we can share since we're, so close to Intel. There's also things going on in the wastewater space. The Ohio EPA is looking to, I think it's called a Central Ohio Interim Master General Permit that will allow them to develop other ways for wastewater discharge, think package plants. They've indicated that there's a meeting in Licking County next week that we'll be attending. They haven't specified what area yet that is in this area that the permit would be utilized for. Harlem Township has 5 different watersheds. Certainly some of those flow, directly into Harlem Town or into Hoover Reservoir, which is the drinking water space for, hundreds of thousands of people. So very important we find out what's going on there. There has been, I think, there was an article in the Newark paper today that Licking County Soil and Water person was certainly not looking favorable to that. So again, these are the smaller package plants to handle development that would not tie in to sewer until it became available. And the last thing I'll comment on, kind of a project in process. One of the first things that caused me to get involved in this whole effort was the first big project that we're looking at, and it's the Conservancy at Duncan Run, which is the Harlem Road, Gorsuch Road, 70, 68, 69 acre project. That group was into the zoning commission
at the last meeting, sharing their updated plans that they've been working with Delaware County on. We're very interested in that because we've talked a lot about what's going to happen with, stormwater, and they're taking, what we believe are the right steps to make sure there are retention and detention areas. So, water can be controlled because there's still farmland around there. And it's kind of a beta test for us. So, we'll continue to work closely with them. The nice thing is we've got a good partnership with them. They're doing it on a conservancy basis. And more to come, but they're working with Delaware County now.
The only thing I would add to Bruce's very complete report is that the Delaware County Engineers Office, as opposed to ODOT, just the Engineers Office, has awarded a contract locally for an engineering firm to do initial surveys and design of a roundabout at the intersection of Fancher and Harlem Road, just north of the Smothers Road roundabout. That was done without our knowledge, without our input. We were asked, we have met frequently with the engineer's office and always ask, what are your plans specifically for that intersection? For and ultimately thoroughfare plan, we've always been told nothing on the drawing boards, and then this pops up. So we get little cooperation from the county engineer's office, and for some, it's a big change in the neighborhood. Touch.
Oh, yeah, it's my opinion, it's a great change, but I won't fear for my life pulling out of my driveway.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, thank you, Tom. I forgot that piece. The Delaware County Engineers Office also did indicate on the time continuum going out in 26 and 27. There are some other roundabouts that they're considering, like at County Line in 37 and County Line, and then Center Village and Fancher Road in County Line. So those are just pushed out at this point.
I mean, County Line's gonna be just short of the freeway before this thing's over with. So,
Any other
No, that's all I got.
thoughts or concerns or?
yeah,
Go ahead.
well, there's a lot to still go through with, questions and comments. And in fact, as I watched the Zoom, we're up to 170 Zoomers out there, and a few, comments and questions coming in, and we'll just have to sort out tonight how we deal with that when we get to the public section. But I'd like to say that, over the course of the last couple of weeks, we've received a lot of input from the township community, which we appreciate. After a lot of thought, I believe we don't have adequate time to move this activity forward, activity meaning the merger activity, as we previously outlined to the residents. The SPC has a lot of ongoing work to be completed. You just get a sample of that with what was just reported, with just these people working on it. And there's also new ideas out there to explore. I think we need to review our subcommittee structure following this activity, and the participants on the subcommittees, and see if they're structured in the manner that's most suitable for us to get the most work done. And look for additional help from residents, particularly those seeking to help in a constructive manner. I mean, that doesn't mean that they can't, they don't have to absolutely agree with us, but they need to do it in a constructive manner so we can get some work done. Over the last 2 years, we've made a lot of progress in educating residents regarding the overall risks to our quality of life. We've taken important steps to improve our chances of protecting our borders from the threat of annexation. You heard, we talked a little bit tonight. That was a surprise this morning to learn about the Sunbury deal, but we're a long ways from being done. So, having said that, in light of an abundance of feedback from residents, I propose a motion as follows. The SPC formally recommends that the trustees support the resolution to engage in further fact-finding on an extended timeline with Westerville with respect to a merger agreement to then be voted on by all residents sometime in 2025. Respectfully, we believe it should not be up to the trustees to solely make this determination, but that of the residents via a vote. End of my motion.
Have a motion.
Yeah.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Jim.
Let's discussion from the committee.
Can you get the mic aimed at you one more time
And-
and identify yourself before we go too far on Zoom? I wondered who's talking because all they're seeing are these midget pictures.
I'm sorry. Before, this is Carl Richardson trustee, but before we go any further with this discussion, I want to say something. I am not going to vote on this simply because my vote will be next Wednesday, so I would be abstaining from this vote.
Let me know if people can't hear me online or if you can't hear me out there. My name's Tom Need. I sit on the zoning commission, have for 3 terms. Been a resident of the township for about 15 years with my wife and dogs, and been on the planning committee for a couple of years as the liaison with the zoning commission. Speaking to Steve's motion. I think a decision of this magnitude that the township is faced with, how to move forward, how to protect the quality of life that we have here, is probably the biggest decision this township will face for a generation. Maybe longer. And personally, I don't feel that that decision should be left in the hands of 3 elected trustees. To put that burden on them, I don't think is fair to them or good for the community. So I would support the motion where it basically allows the process to play out. What we're saying now is we have no agreement with Westerville. We are just starting to discuss things. Is there a way forward? None of us know. Are there going to be bumps in the road? I would be surprised if there aren't. But at the end of the day, if we can negotiate a contract, a merger agreement with Westerville, and if the trustees agree to move it forward to a vote, then at the end of the day, I think it's up to the voters to decide what they want, not up to the trustees. Let the voters decide whether it's the right way to move forward or not. And I think the rest of us, given that, would say, if we vote, I can live with it, one way or the other. I don't care. That's all. Those are my comments for regarding the merger.
So, yeah, I had a few. So, Bruce McClary, member at large of the Strategic Planning Committee. Tom, I agree with what you said. The only thing I think I would perhaps suggest for consideration is that, to me, we're looking for the best opportunity that allows us to shape the future of Harlem Township. My concern is we've got a ton of education to do, because I think what we're hoping is that we can continue to educate, that understand, so that people, residents understand, if we do nothing, we will lose all control. And if anybody doubts that, please, I think Carl referred to at the meeting, go back and look at Intel on Intel, and even look at our website with some of the pictures of what happens after a series of years. So, I will say that, the whole possibility with Westerville, I know there are a lot of folks that believe that this is something that's been, worked on and hashed and rehashed over a period of time. I was a mindset that it was going to be a shock whenever it came out. When it got to a point where we thought it might have some possibility, we felt we needed to bring it to the public. So even though it was a shock, to me, it was going to be a shock at any point in time. But when we thought there was a reasonable opportunity to explore, we wanted to get input. We wanted everybody to tell us what their thoughts are, because we have some of them very, very similar to a lot of the things that everybody's heard. The other piece that I would say is, I like having backup plans. I wouldn't want anyone to think that the way that we would proceed forward, and I would ask of the committee that we continue to look for opportunities, because it's very possible that if indeed we continue to have discussions with Westerville, we could find a stumbling block that says it's not a doable option. It doesn't provide us the opportunity that we would be looking for. And if that's the case, if we haven't continued to look at other alternatives that may come available, then we're way behind the 8 ball. And we may have a bit of a grace period because of the support of the utilities in the area, that I think pushing it out is a necessity, right? Pushing it out is a necessity, and probably I'll say shame on me for not saying that not sooner, but there's a whole lot of stuff to be done. And I think it's good work that we should go through, but I think we should also continue to look at other potential alternatives and share as much as whatever the best communication way is possible to share with everybody. I can tell you there aren't secrets, but I've negotiated lots of deals in my career, and having 50 people sit in a room and try and negotiate something is not a successful alternative. You've got to have a reasonable number of people that are reasonable minded, hopefully sharing the same goals, and then you can determine whether you can come to a conclusion. So, and I can state factually that we were 2 weeks, when the announcement was made that we wanted to pursue this, within the prior 2 weeks, we didn't know it was going to happen that it was even a real possibility until 2 weeks before that. Had discussions going on? Yeah, we've been talking to lots of people, but there were some ideas made on what we would be able to control with zoning for a period in time that we thought was reasonable enough that it was worth pursuing. So, sorry I'm so long-winded, but I didn't say and a chance to say anything at the other meetings, but I think we've got an opportunity to explore lots of things. We may seem sometimes that we're not as open to some of the commentary because we've done a lot of work, and when we hear things that we know maybe aren't actually accurate, we are humans. We maybe don't always respond, and I apologize if I ever do that to anybody, but we're genuinely interested to figure out how we can do this. I've been in this township for 45 plus years. I was talking with a resident before the meeting and said, some of the folks that are no longer with us, bothers me tremendously that this community is having to go through that, through what we're going through. But it's what's our best opportunity to control as much as we can. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking to give anything away. We're looking for the opportunity to have input and guidance into what we want Harlem Township to be. I'm done.
Any other comments from the committee?
Yeah, I just wanted to second, Bruce, what you had said about parallel pathing. So we can't put all our eggs in one basket, assuming that a merger is going to be what ultimately the direction this goes in. So I do think it's important to, while we continue to explore that we're also looking at the other options that might be out there. And maybe there will be one that is like, oh, well, we weren't aware that was a thing, and that looks even better than merger. So I think we need to have kind of two avenues open. One that is going down the path of exploring still, with, more time to do so, more public forums, more feedback, more, with people who maybe are open-minded enough to consider that as a possibility. But I also think we need to have, like, kind of in parallel with that, people and, committees, if we restructure our committees, however we do that, to, continue to work on everything we've been working on, and before we even knew that merger was an option. So I do second that whole feel of parallel pathing. To that point, I don't know at what point we probably need to resume our bi-monthly meetings instead of once a month meetings. And I I don't know if we need to make a motion to do that, how that works. But I don't, once a month is not gonna cut it
Right.
going forward. So I put that out there. And I also just want to say that I know that there's a lot of passion, obviously we've mentioned that before, and strong feelings about not wanting to go the direction of a merger, but there's also a lot of people that are open-minded and want to hear more about it. I think in general, there's like a sentiment that, the vast majority of the township doesn't want this. I don't know that that's true. The SPC has received some emails that were very balanced and well thought out and kind of were just like more open-minded, like wanting to know more about it and wanting to be involved in the process as it unfolds. So just because people don't speak out at a public meeting doesn't mean that there's not people that are open-minded to the idea. So I like that we're not abandoning it, but that we're giving ourselves more time to explore it and pull more of the community in.
And the feedback I've gotten, when you say open-minded, I don't take that as a vote yes.
No, neither do I.
I take that as we got a lot more to learn. And before we're in a position to make a judgment about what, individually we think is best for the township. But that we're not at that point, given the preliminary work that's been done. So I just want to, that's my take, because I'm not sure where I am yet.
There's no agreement to even form an opinion.
There's not even a debate yet in reality. So I want to clarify one thing in my motion, I guess, and that is as the timeline said, the old timeline said that the meeting next Tuesday on the Wednesday on the 20th with the trustee meeting, that was a point in time for the resolution to come before the trustees to vote yes to advance this into the negotiation phase. That's what was supposed to get tabled next week. My belief is that's not what's going to get tabled, because if we're pushing this thing out timeline wise, that's just not appropriate. So again, my motion is an appeal to the trustees to provide support for the further investigation of this possible activity, and to not take away people's chance to vote down the road. So let us do our job is what I'm asking for in short form.
I think it's important. I'm Mike Cannon. I'm your zoning inspector and director. I think it's important to note that we don't need to be pressed into any kind of a timeline. I think that's key. Nobody's going to tell us what timeline we have to do it in. Nobody's going to tell us what timeline we have to get it all taken care of and looked into, because again, we need help. There's only this many people, so many people today. So I think that's important that we make sure we push that time.
Well, I have.
All right, have a motion. I have a second. We've had a good discussion. Any other discussion? Any further discussion from the committee? If not, I would take we've never done one before. Let's do a roll call vote.
Yes.
We've never had anything this big.
On the motion that's on the table.
Like we're all caught.
Bannon,
Yes.
Eisenbrown,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
yes. Abstain.
Yep.
Snodgrass,
Yes.
Steel Smith.
Yes.
I was so afraid I was going to come down to being the tiebreaker. And I wasn't gonna be able to vote. All right, so we have a motion that has passed that you guys are going to be coming to the trustees with next Wednesday. Any other discussion from, or I guess, any other discussion from the committee? And if not, where do we go next? What's our next move?
Back to do we have to make a motion to go back to 2 meetings a month? All this jurisprudence, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think, to be honest with you, I think the reason why I suggested, it may have been my suggestion to take it to 1 meeting a month was because I had a bunch of volunteers that were burning themselves out. I'm sorry, I use a bunch, it was a small bunch. but I had a group of volunteers who I was afraid was burning themselves out because not only were you guys having 2 meetings, but you had your subcommittees, we're doing this and that. So if you guys want to go back to 2 meetings a month, I have no problem with that.
Well,
But I'm hoping from all of this that I can get as much passion from the public to help, to volunteer to help, as I've gotten criticism for even thinking about doing anything like this. You know, I'm really hoping those voices stay as vocal to be here to help their community as their passion was wonderful. And I swore I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I'm going to bring the mood and I apologize. But the vileness and the attacks were unnecessary. I think we need to figure out, we are a community, we're a strong community. We need to work together.
And how do we sign up to do that?
How can you sign up to do that?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think, like, if we want to have people are we gonna do we want to form different subcommittees? Or even just-
May I make a suggestion? There's nothing wrong with having a group of volunteers. It's 600. We only need 20 right now, but you know what? We'll need those other ones later.
Yeah,
Because
I wonder
people
if we-
fall off, we're gonna have to, and it's human nature. You're gonna commit to something, something's gonna happen in your life, you're gonna have to fall off. We need to constantly be filling in as we need them. We need folks to just come up and say, I'm good at this, I'm good at that.
I'm thinking maybe I put together like a Google form and like, you could fill out if you're interested in volunteering, what,
Is this one of those
Subcommittee-
spreadsheets that I keep hearing?
yeah, Google form. You go and you fill out boxes.
I'm
Um,
not a good one.
For anyone who doesn't get online, I mean, there's always the option of calling or,
I think that is an
But-
excellent idea, Molly.
but okay,
That's
I'll
volunteer.
put together a Google form to solicit, volunteer interest, I guess, and then we could go from there as far as, which committees they might want to help with or which committees
but it-
need to be.
But if there's anybody that's here, I know there was a mention earlier that someone said, remember, not everybody's on email in the community. So if you're here and you fit that bill, please come up when we're done with the meeting. We'll take that information. Or if you happen to know somebody, a neighbor that you've had discussions with, we'll take that information too. So at least we could reach out and call them and get them what we would want to understand about.
If
their
you're online, but your neighbor's not, and your neighbor says, I'd like to do something, get that information to us.
Yeah, and that reminded me of another thing. If you feel that you should be on the email list, like you thought you signed up, but you're not getting anything, first of all, check your spam, make sure it's not going there. Some people have found that they've been going to spam. And second of all, if it's not in your spam and you still felt like, oh, I gave you my email, I should be getting these. It could be just that there was a typo or like especially if it was a handwritten like sign-in sheet that we're translating these from. Not everyone's handwriting is legible all the time, so we do our best to transcribe that. But if you're not getting emails, but you thought you signed up, please just send us an email directly or fill out the form that's on the website where you can actually type your email instead of handwrite it. That way there's no chance of us, misinterpreting handwriting.
That's awfully kind. I did 150 from the meeting, new ones last weekend, and I was the cockpit air on 6 that bounced back. So I
Yeah.
think 6 out of 150 plus isn't too bad, but we gotta make sure that they're going through, but at least we get the bounce backs. And then I track those people down to make sure we got them right. So
on Molly's question, the next meeting date in the normal schedule would be the first Tuesday in April, April 2nd. I think that's it's a couple of weeks from now. And at that meeting, I would say we can reorganize the meeting schedule if we want to do 2 a month or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, this technically would almost be our,
Normal meeting.
third week meeting, so.
So we will meet next here. 6:30 in the afternoon on Tuesday, April 2nd. Notice of that will go out, notice of that will be posted, but for everyone here, that's what'll happen.
You heard that, right, Kendra?
I heard it.
okay,
Anything else from the, yes?
One last thing, just for clarification, back to the funding for potential mailed newsletters. Do we have to make a motion to bring that to the trustees, or do we just,
have a fund.
we do have money in a fund?
Well,
We have a lot.
we have a small fund.
So we're going to do increase that
You're not
fund.
gonna get a lot of mailers out.
No, you're not gonna touch the mailers with.
Well, and that's really
How
not,
does that
I
happen?
would say the communication committee should bring something
To the
to
trustees.
to the trustees,
Them
to-
get an idea of a cost, bring that to the trustees
On Wednesday evening?
on Wednesday.
Okay.
Anything else from the committee?
no, I think we
All right.
can move to the public.
We're gonna open it to the public for as long, where are we at time wise?
Got about an
Got
hour.
about an hour, so
So,
really.
so let's, you please, I'm sorry, because I'm sort of managing the
Yeah.
ins and outs, so come up to the mic, please,
Please.
for either a comment or a question.
And I know this has been said, please try to do one question and please try to limit it to just a couple minutes worth of talking. Just so everybody has a chance. You can come back through. I know that was a big boo the other night, but we tried to get everybody through. So Raylene, if you would come up to the mic, please.
Mike, can you pull that down a little bit, that mic, please? Thank you. You can push the keyboard in so she can get closer.
And please, your name and address, please.
Raylene Meadows, 1906 Miller Paul Road. This is for Jim. If I understood it correctly, when you spoke with Galena, they have roughly 1,000 residents.
Right.
And we have roughly 4,800.
Mhm.
And you said they would lose in a vote on things,
On a merger.
on a merger. Okay. Westerville has 40,000.
Mhm,
We have 4,800.
mhm.
Wouldn't they be the Harlem and
That's the
we would be the-
negotiating part.
Pardon?
That's part of the negotiating part.
Well, wouldn't that be the same
Yeah.
for Galena?
Well, they could negotiate. Yeah.
Yeah, they could negotiate also, but the problem that it's actually for another discussion, but it's because it's so complicated, just like Westville, all right? If they have something to offer, the mayor told us they don't have the resources to handle Harlem Township. Okay, the things that we need in a merger, okay? So a merger would be that we go together, okay? So they said that they weren't interested in a total merger because they don't have the resources. They want to stay a village.
What
But
kind
the
of
comment
resources do you
was-
have to have to, for a merger like that? I don't understand.
Well, that's what what do you mean? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
When you say they don't have the resources, if it went to merger, what are you speaking of?
They don't have funding. They don't have the kind of money that it takes.
For police and fire and everything.
Yeah, right.
Or
Yeah, so they have no police department and,
the infrastructure.
yeah, they don't have the infrastructure, right, Raylene?
But don't they use the same police that we do?
No,
No.
They have their own?
they use Delaware County.
Isn't that what we use?
They pay for it.
But they pay for the.
I believe they used to have to pay for it. They have to use the combination fire, what is that, the fire department up there? That's up in Sunbury, is that right?
ESDG.
And so then you got the roads, they don't, the road maintenance, it's something they really don't want to tackle. That's the way I understood the conversation.
Interested.
Huh?
They're not interested in,
A merger. They're not interested in a
We're
merger.
looking at other options of how we could, that's like I kept saying, we're not focusing on just one thing.
Mhm.
We're still, I met with the mayor. And, and I left it with the feeling that we're gonna talk some more. We're gonna see what we can do to possibly work something together that would benefit both of us. Would a merger necessarily work with them? Most likely not, simply because there's nothing really there that entity would help us. But they maybe would help us with a JED, a TIF, or whatever. All of those alphabet soups that I keep talking about. The option's there. It's different than it won't be.
But I was just putting it out there because there was so much online that why don't we talk to them? We have been.
well, no, I thought they had said at one of the meetings that they reached out to Genoa, they said no. Galena didn't get,
Another township,
Galena did not get back with you, and Sunbury couldn't take care of what they were doing themselves.
right.
Something along that line.
Yeah, and I gave you examples on Sunday. You can go online and look at that. Well, I have one of
Well,
the
I
neighbors
heard-
going,
I heard you talking about the annexation and that, and I do know about that,
yeah,
but, I thought you had said that Galena did not get back with us, so.
that was on,
When you-
that was on Holly's in 23 with Jill Love. They did not call Holly back after their meeting, yes.
There was the initial meeting with Joe Love.
Hmm.
And it didn't go well. I was later at a later date after all of this came, the merger deal came. There was a request to speak with the mayor. It was set up, myself and the mayor and two other gentlemen sat in the room. And we talked just about where we all are. That we all realize something's coming and that we need to potentially continue this talk and see what we can do to assist each other. That's where it's at. And that was my view of that meeting.
But could I say this is a great opportunity of what I was talking about with parallel paths. So we got 50 people in this room, we got 100 and whatever on Zoom. You raise a great question. There's 4,300 other people in the township that may have the same question that wouldn't have the answer. I think part of what the committee needs to kind of take on is say, okay, for these alternatives, what are the reasons that we don't think they're a viable alternative to give us the best opportunity to control what's going on in our township? Then when the different entities see, when we talk to those, then the public, the voters will decide, will be able to give us feedback to say, oh yeah, well, now that I know this about Galena, this is maybe why it's not reasonable for us to keep them in consideration. So maybe it falls off the list. Maybe the same thing with Sunbury. I mean, we've said a lot of things about Sunbury that are very meaningful, but I think we need to have a way to capture that so that the entire residential community has an opportunity to understand how we're vetting that and the reasons why we think that. Otherwise, what happens is there's always a question about, well, what about this? What about that? We can state the reasons and then everybody can decide whether they like those reasons or not. But then there's not anything that anybody could understand about what we're thinking. Right? Because we tried to give you some answers here and it's a great question, but there's 400 other people that may be thinking the same thing that won't get that answer unless we publicize it to them about why these are the services Galena would be able to provide that we think are necessary for the township.
Right, because when you think of two small areas. They're doing fine, we're doing fine, we would do fine. Other than a big 40,000 and a 4,800.
Well, yeah.
We would be
The one thing I want to just extend on something Bruce said. You know, there was a lot of questions about, did we talk with? One of the things I told this committee early on, and I'm gonna insist on this as long as I have anything to say about it. I do not ever want to hear a disparaging comment about another community, especially if they're not here, even though there's other communities who like to. You can go and see some of the things they've said about certain people in Harlem Township. We're not going to do that. We're going to be bigger than any of them. That's my plan. We're going to hold our head high. We're not going to sink to that crap.
I didn't
So
think you were
I know,
there.
but I'm just saying, a lot of people have asked why we don't talk about who we talk with. It's because we can't, because maybe, I'll say it this way, there may not be anything good to say. So instead of saying something bad, I'm just not gonna say anything.
Well, I don't want anything bad, I'm just asking to understand
It's like, my bad.
what we needed. I didn't understand the things that we need that two townships already have, or a village has and a township has. But they can't do it, but a city and a township can do it.
Well, the bottom line is money, to be honest with you.
Yeah, money and protection. And we've got 26 square miles. And that's a large endeavor. Believe me, it's a very large endeavor. So we'll go on. We got other questions.
Thank you for the question. Thank you.
Go ahead, come on up to the, if you would, please. Name and address, please.
Gary Grega, 13086 Fanshawe Road. I think, everything's happened quick. And see, some of us didn't hear about this till we heard it on the news. So right away, what's happened? The lynch mob kind of thing, I don't think it's really that. It's like, holy crap, this is our life. And this is the biggest decision we're gonna make, okay? So unfortunately, a lot of us are newer, but none of us are really familiar with any of you guys, you know what I mean? So I think the real lynch mob thing was, and I think the real thing people want is just what, I forget your name, slow this down.
Right.
You can't hurry up and take your time. You've got to literally, it's too fast. So if we had to vote in November, there's not enough time to absorb and make a real true decision. For even you guys, it's not fair for you guys, like you said, to have to make that. So I know you abstained. So my next question is, are we going to go that route, or is this going to have to wait till the 20th to make that decision? I mean, I don't know where we're at today. I mean, I know what you're on, but I think you'd make a lot of people happy to slow this down to 25.
We have to wait until the trustees meet on the 20th. It's only.
And that's what I mean. Do they have that final decision whether that happens?
What we need is a keep on going boys message on the 20th from the trustees. I can tell you in the meantime, we're going to keep working on the things that we owe the residents anyhow in parallel to that. So we're not losing any time by waiting till the 20th.
Well, I think that's what we're all looking at. We all felt that there had to be a decision made by November. That's where we were headed, because a lot of it's communication.
Right.
And when you're talking about like bad mouthing anybody, when you hear merger with a city like Westerville, it's not a merger, it's an absorption, and we lose. It's that, I mean, that's the reality of the way people think, because it happens all the time.
Well, that's
I mean, we can make the merger rules, but let's face it, you're outnumbered, and eventually how much of that's going to turn into. So that's what I meant about the time to make sure everything is under control.
Yes.
I know we have to make a change, but I think the worry about everybody's ready to come down here and strangle people, I think it's about how quick all this is happening, and we need to slow down so we can, not just you guys, but us.
Right.
And I was glad to hear that you guys are at least saying that there wasn't any real, but we all felt there already was a decision made. We were just kind of.
Not at all.
And yeah, and so I'm hoping I'm speaking for a lot of people. That's why everybody's invested, not because they don't want change, but it's like, wait a minute, we all need the change coming is too fast. I mean, it's all about money, it's all about development, and that stuff snowballs, and it's about this, and I get that. But I think the biggest problem here was how quick everybody felt this was happening, and they felt ambushed, because there was no communication. It just popped out of nowhere.
We've all been so invested in this for the past 2 years that we overlooked the fact that not everyone is as attuned to everything that's going on that we have been. Like, we've been basically researching and thinking and planning like twice a month official meetings, but outside of that, all kinds of like subcommittee meetings and just research. Like, the amount of stuff I've learned by just paying attention to all this stuff has been enormous. And I think it's almost like I said, blessing in disguise that now we have we shocked y'all and that wasn't good, but it got your attention. And so now let's slow things down. Let's get the community more involved. Let's get more people paying attention.
I think that's the big thing. And I think you'll get more people to help this whole thing, like you said. If we don't feel ambushed that we're being led to a slaughter,
No,
you know what I mean? And I don't feel that way now coming here
I
tonight.
don't think it was our intention to
Right.
echo something that Bruce said.
And this was a great meeting that you had come up today with this to let us a little more in on what's happening because of how quick it did. So when you mentioned what you said, I think that calmed a lot of people down just right there. You heard people applaud because that's kind of really where I think most of us are. Is let's all look at this together and slow down and because if it happened in November and it had to be done, I just feel that there's where people are working. So that, but you know, the thing is, that's where we thought it was heading when all this stuff came out. Honestly.
That's fair.
You know, we had to make an opinion based on what was out there and you can look at minutes and stuff, but like, again, it's like, you know, it's the old adage, well, the decision's already made, you can come talk and we go through the motions, but
no, we don't do that.
it happens. And
Yeah, we
so
don't do that.
we just needed to kind of get to the bottom of it and look for, you know, true situations and be transparent. So that's all I have to say. I just,
Thank
you
you.
know, I think that's the big thing.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
At the- Well, at the risk to see what happens here, hello out there in Zoom land. I have given you the opportunity to unmute your mic. We have questions that came in through chats or requests, which we'll capture and add to our other list. But if someone would like to come on and ask a question live right now, you should be able to unmute and ask a question. So.
To recognize them, make sure, so they don't all come on.
Well, it's gonna be a free for all. I can't do that.
Wasn't there like a hand raising feature?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting swamped here, so who out there,
Your kids don't take it.
who out there would like to ask a question, please unmute and we'll try to mediate who unmutes.
Hello,
Hello, go ahead, Ron and
Hi,
Alice.
this is Alice U. Haas, 13453 Fancher Road. Good evening, everybody. I put in the chat, I don't know how you've contacted other entities, but I would really like to see kind of going back to each of the entities out there, not just Westerville, but Galena. I know some of us were interested in seeing how Galena could possibly be a match, but the other ones around us, Sunbury, somebody in the chat suggested Johnstown, and see which of these make a pro and con. And not just one or two people reach out, but a group approach each of these. If Columbus is really that much of a threat, I think it would behoove all of us to see a list of pros and cons of a merger with any of these surrounding areas. And that's just basically my comment. The other one is maybe for the next Zoom meeting, would it be possible to put the camera at the back of the room so that we could see most of the trustees face on? It's just a little difficult being at the end of the table. Beautiful. Well, I mean, it's behind the audience might be even better, but that's good too.
Okay, Alice.
And just,
Thank you.
I won't stay, I don't need to be wordy, but I really think we need to see a pro and con, and that needs to be pushed out to everybody. And I just want to ask one question. I heard that there is no annexation unless the property owner agrees to annexation. So are we afraid that somebody, that,
Alice, they actually initiate it with the municipality that they want to be annexed by. They go to them.
they who go to, can you say that again?
The property owner of the contiguous land to another municipality has to go to that municipality and request to be annexed.
Okay, so if we're all living the dream here in Harlan Township on our 5+ acres and our animals and our open spaces, and we just love that the way we are, why would we ever go out and say, hey, Columbus, I want you to annex me because I want a Taco Bell on my property?
I will answer that very briefly, and if you go look at some of the history around the annexations with the Intel activity, not everybody's in the same situation financially, in their path and their age, whether it's retired or starting out. And the developers are willing to spend millions upon millions of dollars to buy a $1 million really big house just to knock it down and get access. So the money is no object to these people. We've seen it time and again. And so we'd all like to believe if we all locked arms and sang Kumbaya, we'd be good. But there's a total, full diversity of needs in this township along those borders. So that alone will not protect us.
All right, I've had my 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, who else out there might like to try?
We have a question over here.
We'll get there.
I think so. I think.
Okay, no brave souls. Come on up.
And-
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a question. I'm Lori Ferguson, 13081 Center Village. So is there still a meeting Wednesday? Is it still a public
The trustee
or
meeting
the trustee meeting?
will be a trustee.
And
meeting.
is there still going to be a vote that night?
Yes.
Well, we have to bring the motion to them.
The committee.
Okay, so the motion that we did tonight that you all said yay is not
Because-
passed.
Huh?
It's not passed until they.
This committee is going to bring it to the trustees.
Okay.
That's why I did not vote tonight.
Okay,
It will come to the trustees on Wednesday night, and the trustees will either vote to yes, move forward, or to kill.
okay.
I know, it's so
I
hard
just
to,
need to know whether to be here Wednesday.
it's so hard to follow all of the legalese that happens with these, with the resolutions and the voting. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's confusing.
and please do come, and as a paid service announcement, please feel free to reach out to your current trustees and let them know how you feel. Okay, next question. Angie from.
Please.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Okay, hi, Angie Herrick, 12963 Center Village. Thank you for what you. I know.
Say something. Yeah, we need to.
Hello. Okay, first of all, I want to thank you for tapping the brakes and let us get our breath and to be able to pull together as a community and help. And we're more than willing, so thank you. The one thing I noticed with all of this, and I've learned a lot very quickly, is we don't know what our vision is. So when Mr. Steele Smith, when you're saying we have a vision, we don't know what our vision is. And if there is one, great, and I've somehow missed it. But that's where I think we need to bring the community in first and understand with visual aids from master developers and people who can show us what this community, this farm community can be. That's what we need. Then we can help to evangelize that out around the region and with our surrounding neighbor communities, so that as we come together and have this giant party, this is how I explained it to people. Imagine Lori and I were having this adjoining yard perpetual 24/7 party. We don't want to make it miserable and a mess for our guests, right? And that's what's about to happen here with this growth explosion that we're going to experience. So when we talk about development and growth, it's inevitable, but we don't want it to engulf us. And we don't want to create a giant mess as a region. So whether it's regional master planners that we need, but we need public education. We can't stay in our old ways. Things are going to change, but we certainly can be proactive in propagating that vision out. And I'd be happy to help. And Molly, I want to help you with communication.
Great.
Anything you
Cheers.
need. We have Barb has offered to help. She has done this type of work. Anything, like we can do this, but we have to get people organized.
I think, like I think I mentioned before, I think even though it maybe wasn't the greatest how this was all announced,
It
like,
worked perfect.
yeah, it shocked everybody. It got attention, and maybe we do still move forward in a extended time to do the research and stuff with something with Westerville, but maybe we don't. Maybe we, with more input from the community, we find other paths that make more sense for us. But I think we did do a really good job of like getting a lot of people more interested in this, which is great.
Yeah, and I really want to see us let us be the model, let us be the trendsetters for the surrounding communities. Maybe Galena has no idea how to do this. They've never done this either, right? None of us have done this before.
If I might add, originally on the strategic planning, we did, in our original meetings and stuff, did have a vision. If you go back and look at those now, I mean, they can't be changed. But we had a rural vision. And if you look at the overlays and that type of thing, you'll see that the motif is rural. In other words, our commercial buildings, we wanted them to look rural, like barns and that type of stuff. So we did have a vision.
Just need to get it out to more people and make sure that they align with it.
But it was there, so if you haven't seen that, and like I said, we can enhance that, that's not a problem. But when I say vision, we're going from what we've already, where we came, and we did the plans.
And the investments that were made and in all the work that this community did on the 2020 comprehensive plan, it's still the right work.
Yes.
Strategic, quick strategy guide, the right work. And if people don't know what those two foundational documents are, that's what all of this is springboarding off of. It's the right plan. It's the right work. It was a great investment and it can grow out to be more, but people need educated on these things. And I'm happy to help educate and do forums.
I think, going forward, that quick strategy guide is what this committee has been working from as a guide. So like I said, when we talk to developers and communities, and like I said, I did have to augment on that, the developers that we're talking to that we're sort of excited about, they're following that plan. See what I'm saying?
But are we internally with the tools?
Well, it's already part of our overlays and that type of thing. But what we're not, I guess I get excited because I see the differences. So instead of somebody coming in with a Columbus type plan, they come in with a vision that follows our quick strategy guide. That is a huge win for Harlem Township. That is huge. Now, doesn't mean you're all going to say, well, why'd we do this? Why not? We can have that discussion. But preliminarily, I mean, we're not signing off with these guys. But preliminarily, when you have somebody come in with something that follows that quick strategy guide, that type of zoning, those kind of occupancies, all right, densities, that is a huge win because Mike and I, we had a lot of meetings, and especially with Intel over here, and you know how many calls in that time. I understand that, but I mean, we had, what was that guy, New Jersey?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, huge density, huge impact. We saw this property over by County Line Road, East County Line Road, and they're all ready to jump on it. And we're going, no. Hold up. We don't have this. We're not doing that, And so that's why I said, you don't realize that we're pushing all this back.
I do, but what I know is that I think bringing people along is the way to go and helping them to see the vision. And most people, when we started this, when we woke up from the news, we didn't know those things existed. And as I share those things and try to help educate my neighbors and friends about these things exist, we weren't aware of them. They're the right work. Let's use the tools. And so we just need to do more education with the community.
Right, but I'm just saying that we're not,
Kind of both.
yeah, we're not out there going off on a tangent is what I'm saying. We're trying to follow what was already put in place. Kendra?
I just want to mention, anybody who wants to see the vision or the quick strategy guide, the comprehensive plan for Harlem Township, it is on our website, and it's also paper copies are in our office. You're more than welcome to stop by and peruse through it, but it cannot leave the building because it's our office copy, but there are links on the website where you can view it of your own home if you have access to internet.
Oh, I got one or two. Okay,
Can I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
I want to kind of springboard what Jim's saying. As far as those overlays and saying, developers are looking at it and want to build on it and we're excited about it. It's not like they come in and say, hey, we're gonna use that overlay, and we say, go ahead, have at it.
No.
They have to go through a very stringent committee, which Tom is part of, to make sure they follow every aspect. And that committee is very, 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 yeah. Very. They look at that, they beat that to death to make sure that those developers follow what we say and we put in our plans. So, and you can come and watch that if you like. You can watch and do that, but I think that is an added bonus to the way our whole zoning system is set up.
One final thought, I know you want to move on, Steve, to another person, is that because we have such great, guides with the quick strategy guide and everything we built into those overlays and the, the design standards and stuff. One of the things that attracted the strategic planning committee to the idea of the potential merger with Westerville is that they had indicated that they would allow us to keep our zoning, which would allow us to develop under all of that, even if we did merge with them. And I know there was a lot of question about a period of time, but we weren't talking 6 months. We were talking 10 years. Under which period of time, most of the big development that's going to happen out here is probably going to happen, since it's probably going to follow very similar those patterns around other Intel sites where it just explodes in the decade following. So if we could secure minimum 10 years,
Maybe more,
yeah,
maybe
and
more.
depending on negotiations, if we could negotiate 10+ years of them
Yeah.
retaining our current zoning, that's what attracted us to the idea in the first place.
Whoever it is, the two communities then will have to do it. Or whoever we partner with, you have to do a new comprehensive plan. Once we get sewers, water and that kind of thing figured out and where all that's going to go, then you need a new plan. It may follow where we're at now. Or you may have to.
Let's take a question.
deviate.
Okay, Michelle, if you're still out there, you can unmute and ask away.
Yes, I am here. I'm Michelle Thomas. I have own property at 6754 Harlem Road. And I may be taking a step backwards, but I wanted to know, doesn't the fate of Harlem Township remaining a rural or farming community, isn't that dependent on the large property owners and what they decide to do with their property?
Yes.
Okay, then if they decide to sell to a developer who chooses to give them a better price, if their land can be developed into a commercial or industrial area, how can you control that? Would it be through your zoning that this person then says, well, I just bought this property, I paid this farmer this amount, and now I want to develop this as commercial and industrial. Can you stop that? Can the township stop that?
Yeah, I would say just, yeah, I mean, Michelle,
Black Hawk and that, when, you know what I mean?
That follows zoning.
the zoning is not up to the individual property owner, either the seller or the buyer. The zoning is up to the zoning resolution that the township voters have approved. Changes to amendments to that zoning resolution can be taken to the township voters to approve it or deny it. So an individual landowner, if they're contiguous to another municipality, if they're on the boundary of the township, they can decide for themselves if they want to annex into another municipality where the zoning may be different. where the access to utilities may be different. But if they remain in the township, under the township's existing zoning resolution, they have to abide by that resolution.
Okay, the reason I asked that question is I know someone who recently sold their property in Johnstown. And they were approached by someone who wanted to build apartments and then somebody who wanted to do commercial development. They chose the person who wanted to do commercial development because they offered them more for their property by, per acre, higher price.
You'd have to look at the zoning in Johnstown on that particular.
Okay, so there's no guarantee that that person that bought the property can do what he said he planned to do.
If it doesn't meet the zoning, no.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to bring up is, do most residents of Harlem Township want to remain a rural agricultural township? And do the large landowners agree with that? Or do they prefer to sell? How do we know that?
I'll answer that one.
Go ahead, Mr. Pierce.
I mean, if we don't own the property and, large tracts of acreage is sold, for whatever development.
Michelle, one of the local large landowners, farmers, is going to respond to your.
Okay, I have no idea whether the farmers prefer to continue farming or whether they prefer to sell.
His name is Mike Pierce.
Go, Mike.
Hi,
Michelle.
Michelle. This is Mike Pierce. I'm a family resident of Harlem Township. I'm not a very good speaker, but I really care about this township. My family's been in this township since 1893. My great granddad owned the property that I live at right now. And I'm with you, Michelle, 100%.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Here is, I don't want to be pushed out by, you guys call them developers, I call them dirt pushers. And that's all they do. They come in and tear up the property, make it to what they want it to be, and they'll go on to the next property. I've been a lot of sleep over this since I found out about it. I don't want to ever leave my property. I promised my dad before he passed that I would take care of the farm, the family farm. And I feel to this point that I've done that, and I don't want to stop. I am 61 years old and I want to be there for another 30 years if I can. And I don't want a bunch of houses, a bunch of businesses pushing all the way around my property, which I don't own. I only own 42 acres. So for them to come, they can come right beside me and start building whatever they want. And there's nothing that I can do about it. So what my question is, we're talking about all this, what we've done with the strategic planning and all that, which I appreciate what you guys have done. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want to be sitting in your seats right now. But I think what I'm hearing is a lot of people wants farm community to stay the way it is. I'm 110% for you. I want to know what can we do to protect the farmers, the farms, the Century Farms that's been in Harlem Township. What are we going to do to protect them?
Thank you, Mike, for speaking up. I'm so happy to hear this.
Oh, can I take a shot at that for a second? So I'll give you a perspective, and I'm with you too. It comes down to economics and the life cycle of that farm, because these farms for some people are their 401ks. And if they don't have kids coming along that want to farm or be in the farming world, well then, it's going to be their decision on what to do with it. There are options. I can tell you personally, the wife's uncle 180 acres of their original 300 on Harlem Road into an agricultural easement. And basically says that can only be agriculture. But he got paid a county for that. But nothing compared to what we could have sold that land. But he felt strongly he has to see agriculture because that was the farm that his father started farming in 19. So got a large whoever's out there on mute, please.
I think you
Yeah. I can. So all I'm saying is there is a continuum out there across the farm spectrum. And so we need to be aware of that. We tried back when we were doing the plan to let people know that that was an option. But again, they're going to have to feel pretty strongly about how they want to keep land rural. And all the rules on that changed 2 years ago, right? When Intel announced. So what might have been a couple $1,000 an acre for that farmer now could easily be 50 or 100. So there's huge financial pressure.
Steve, I was offered 50 grand an acre. You know what? I told him to get in his car and go home.
I love you. I'm just trying to say that there's a continuum of opportunity out there that people are going to take advantage of. And it's really not up to us to dictate how they use their land. That's their choice. But we can we will put the zoning in place as we have with the 3 overlays to ensure that it will be done in a manner which we agree with, which back to the original question is keeping a rural look and feel. Those are the guideposts for what we want. So I'll stop. Sorry for the speech. We'll question in the room and then I'll look back online. Come on over.
I don't think I need to be that close because my voice will carry.
Well, we need to get to the mic at least.
That's great.
Question the mic.
So people online can hear.
I'm Mariano Ruiz and I live in 12175 Fancher Road. Been in the community about 7 years, lived in Westerville prior to that for 28 years. And I was embarrassed to say the least in the meetings last week and the week before. I attended both of them because it's like everybody felt like they were hit with a 2x4 when they first heard about this, and all of a sudden they're all reacting. I've been attending these meetings for about 2 years now, and it came from the first meeting that was held at the church. It was an introductory meeting, and then they asked for people to write their emails. Well, I put mine in there, and I've been getting notifications about all these meetings all along. So, I mean, maybe shame on those of us who have attended here and not shared that information with everybody else. But I know Mike Pierce has attended the meeting also, so he got that information too. But bottom line, everybody thinks that we can keep the community the way it is now, and I know the Pauls have been here for many, many years, and I know Mike's family has been here for many years. Well, guys, we're not as powerful as all of these other companies that own billions of dollars. Something is going to happen if we don't do anything. We're trying to do the best we can here, and this team needs to be congratulated for the amount of work that they've done to try to control the destiny of this township. I don't think we're going to be able to keep it. In fact, I know we won't be able to keep it the way it is now. It just won't happen because all it will take is a few of the landowners to sell because they offer them $10 million for their property that probably is only worth $1 million. If they sell and it's close to the boundaries of another township or the city of New Albany or Columbus or whichever, it's going to be annexed. And I think the word annex is probably a much worse word than merge. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm in favor of the merger, but I would prefer the merger versus being swallowed by Columbus. And Columbus is just a few, maybe a mile or two away from us. And
Not even that anymore.
New Albany is very close, and Sunbury is very close now to the township.
Across the road.
Like it or not, and I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of passion because they've lived here their whole life. But it's gonna happen. And there's nothing that we can do, the best you can do is merge with someone who can help us control as much as we're possibly able to control. But if we do nothing, in a couple of years, we won't be a township anymore.
Thank you. Ryan, go ahead, fire away.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. This is Ryan Hames, 13601 Robbins Road. And first, I'd like to thank you guys for all of your work. And my first question is, I think the main goal that most of us have is to preserve our rural character as best we can for as long as we can. Like the previous gentleman said, we're never going to keep it that way forever. So we want to do the best we can. And it may be that Westerville is that answer, but I've heard a lot of talk in the community from other parties that there may be other alternatives. And I think that a lot of the residents would just like to know, what are those other alternatives, like a joint economic development district? Does that help us? Does that give us any opportunity to prevent annexation? And I think once we know what the alternatives are, why they are good, why they are not good, then we can make a great decision as far as where we go with this. And just for a point of clarification, my understanding is that if we were to merge with Westerville, then we become a city, and a city has the ability to prevent a landowner from annexing into Columbus, for example. Is that correct?
Yeah. Correct.
And what's the minimum requirement for that? Can a town do that, or does it have to be city level?
Any municipality.
Any village or municipality recognized.
So could we become a village?
We cannot, we do not meet the requirements to incorporate ourselves.
What are the requirements that we're lacking?
So to incorporate as a municipality, you need to have a minimum population of 1,600 people. We meet that, but you need also a minimum population density of 800 people per square miles over a 2 square mile area. Even at Harlem Township's densest 2 mile area, we don't come anywhere close to 800 people per square mile.
Okay, I think that's information that most people don't know, and it would be hugely helpful if we did. Because you're getting a lot of, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? There are probably very good reasons for it. We just don't know them. You guys have had your head in it. You know the details.
Exactly. So we do have a lot more education to do, a lot more answers to get out there. But yeah, we are nowhere close to meeting the requirements to incorporate ourselves. As to your first question, I want to speak on that briefly. JEDs are an economic development tool that exists, and we've explored these and we will continue to do so. They can potentially offer some protection against annexation in parts of the township, but there are limitations. So you can only put a JED on an area that is zoned for mixed use. So we don't want to zone our whole township for mixed use because that's not our vision. But we have strategic areas that we could put mixed use overlays, which we have started to do that work. You could potentially pair a JED with some of those areas, but another component of the JED is that it has to be like developable land in order to start a JED. And unfortunately, the areas where we would most benefit from a JED along our borders to kind of prevent annexations, particularly our southern border, a lot of that is parceled out into single family lots of like 5 acres or so already. And even though we have a mixed use overlay zone on it, you can't really argue that it's developable because it's owned by individuals living on those properties. If those individuals start selling their properties to a developer and a developer owns a lot of land in that mixed use zone, then you could argue that it's developable and you could put a JED there. But that's not where we're at, unfortunately. There might be some small areas where we could put a JED in that mixed use zone because it is like, larger properties that might be in a trust or in a developer's hands, but most of that area is not really conducive to a JED.
Okay, great. Final question, if I may. So the zoning overlays, I understand why they were developed, and I think everybody has their opinion on them. But Westerville has said, okay, hey, we'll respect those, and that makes Westerville an attractive partner for a merger. But the day that merger happens and Harlem Township ceases to exist, what prevents the Westerville zoning board from getting together and just running right over those? And then those disappear and we get Walmarts and apartment buildings.
Yeah, so the quick answer to that is it's in the merger agreement.
What's the teeth to make them abide by that? We're gone. We have no one to
So
voice.
to do a merger, in a merger agreement, that becomes almost like state law. That's controlled by the ORC, and it's controlled, and we have to follow their guidelines. So whoever you're dealing with has to also.
Okay,
So,
that's great. Now, who's the controller there?
Ohio Revised Code.
Ohio Revised
Oh,
Code.
okay, ORC. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so consequently, if there was a violation of that, you're not talking about us having to get an attorney and they get an attorney. You know, you go straight to the state, you go to the Attorney General's office and say, hey, they're violating this, and that's where you go. So we don't even have to defend it. The state will defend it.
Okay, so that really is very helpful for us understanding why these zoning overlays, if Westerville agrees to accept them for a fixed period of time, which will be as long as you can negotiate for, I assume, that would be very helpful. But again, the lack of information out there is hurting, because if people knew that, I think they might feel a lot more comfortable with it.
That's a benefit of us kind of slowing things down and spending a lot more time on education and outreach and, you know, this feedback phase.
I might add one other thing, and Molly and I just mentioned it, on the JEDs, for everybody that wants to talk about JEDs. Don't forget, every property owner in a JED area has to sign off. So what happens is, if you have somebody that's close to the border and they don't want to sign, and we want to put a JED there, if they don't sign it, then you got a hole in your JED. So that's another thing to consider. So it sounds simple, but it gets complicated. And so when it gets complicated, then we really have problems.
Okay, Jerry, you're up. I'm Jerry Paul, 4854 Miller Paul Road. I forgot my question. Okay, I would like to request, if this would be willing to also recommend hiring a professional planner to help weed our way through this, experienced professional. Table. To negotiate with these people that breathe and eat this material every day. The professionals out there, we need, I think, to guide us through, and that would be a professional planner. Question, would this committee be willing to?
We have to discuss it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I understand your question, but we would have to discuss it. Because we haven't talked about it.
I think that
I will speak as one trustee, and I'm just one. I would be more than willing to look at hiring a professional planner. I think a professional planner is an excellent idea. I believe you and I may have had this discussion in the past. Just gonna throw this out. They're very expensive.
True.
And what we have to do is we have to make sure we get the right one. The right one that can take care of the situation that Harlem Township has. I would not want somebody to come in with these credentials just because they're, excuse me for saying, they're coming from the city. I'd love to find some country boy that is a planner.
I agree, Carl. And yes, they are expensive. But when I think of our
situation
money in our account that we have in our account right now, that we've worked so hard through the years to provide a nice safety net to run this township conservatively. Let's say $3 million, $3.5 million, what that number is. And that, with a stroke of a pen, will be taken out of our account if we merge with these people. So expensive, yes, it is expensive to hire a planner. But compared to what we're going to lose, I think it's negative. So
There again, and I'm speaking as one trustee, Jerry, you know how that situation goes. That has been a huge issue on my mind personally. You know, there's that's why this whole thing, I've just kept saying all along, and I know there's some in this room that probably got tired of hearing me say it. You know, I am not going to take this right away from the public. I don't think I'm allowed to. I mean, I would not be doing my job. But I also have to make sure that everybody knows that if they decide to say no at the end of this whole process, I'm going to be making sure that there's another alternative plan there. I think the planner is an excellent idea. I hope my other two co-owners are listening. I personally will fight for that.
Good.
I think that's even a recommendation in the quick strategy guide.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
We just haven't gotten to that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But I think now's the time.
People are expensive. Your taxes are gonna go up.
Okay, so again, we've been very conservative through the years. Protect your money, and I want to see that protected. And if we have a merger with this Westerville bunch, that money with a stroke of a pen will be out of our account. I'm telling you, that's what happened. So I'm glad to hear what I'm hearing tonight about tapping the brakes here a little bit. Excellent, excellent. So let's move forward together. I think we can do it. I know we can do it. But let's look at all the options out there, all the options. So that's what I'll be working on. A lot of us will be working on, so.
Thanks, Jerry.
I will, since we can't have a get together as a quorum, I will poll the committee members over the coming days on that idea. Jerry? Jerry, I will poll the committee members in a non-quorum environment, since we're not gonna do it yet tonight.
Right.
Just to get their take on what we might want to put on the table as a recommendation next week.
Easy when you're not.
Warning.
From Crossroads, wasn't she?
5 minutes.
No, but she doesn't do this kind of work. She is principally a zoning planning consultant. And she's done a great job, but she doesn't get us to where we need to be at the next stage. Okay, come on up or sit down next to Molly there so you can get access to my Dutch. While he's settling that, we're at 25 after. We don't have a lot of hands raised out there, but we'll try to get this shut down in the next 10 minutes or so.
Everybody that the radar says there's severe weather coming our
Right.
way about 35-40 minutes.
Yeah, the tornado.
That-
They're around.
That's one of the reasons we want to be down here.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Walk warning. so-
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Dutch.
Go ahead.
Hi,
Dutch, go ahead.
Dutch Holland. I live near the corner of Harlem and Fancher. I've listened to the committee for a number of years, helped for a little bit. I understand the desire to tap the brakes. My biggest fear is if we tap the brakes, what Columbus is going to do in the meantime. And that's my biggest fear. I've already, I've already resigned myself to the fact that the land right across the street from me is going to be some kind of development. My biggest hope is that maybe I'll get a good restaurant within walking distance. That's the only saving grace I see, but I understand why that overlay is there. So I can understand that. My fear is if we don't act too quickly enough that it only takes a couple purchases before boom. Now we're right up, Columbus is on the border, and one of the developers can say, great, I'm applying to Columbus. And then that starts creeping in, and then we're going to be hard pressed.
I think there's a balance. I think we need to give us a little bit more time than what our initial timeline said, but we probably should, if we're going to go some kind of a merger route or whatever route we're going to go, try to keep it accelerated enough that by sometime next year, we have things a little bit more figured out.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have 40 acres, but I've got an acre and a third. And we moved out here because we didn't want to be in a little subdivision.
Right.
And, I look at the overlays, and say, okay, I'm not gonna have a subdivision next to me, but I'm gonna have some commercial development. Okay, but I think of the larger township, I agree with pumping the brakes, but I think the key word there is pump and not stand on them. Okay, because I really have a concern that if we don't act quickly enough, we aren't going to have any choices.
Steve, I hate to say it, but.
No, we're gonna shut down.
Tailing in
Is it-
Delaware.
I'm gonna.
Go ahead, wrap it up.
Yeah, I want to say one thing and then we'll get out of here. First, I want to thank everybody. Dutch, thank you for that comment. we've been worried about the south. I have a map. Anybody wants to see it? This is just what happened to our north. Okay, you can take, that's Sunbury right across the street from Harlem Township.
Okay, I move to adjourn the meeting. I say, we adjourn. All in favor? Okay, say something.